So today I'm at Waiotapu in Rotorua, New Zealand. This is a thermal wonderland, so a beautiful park full of geysers and hot springs and mud baths and all sorts of really cool geologic formations. So let's go explore some. So one of the reasons New Zealand has such unique geology and geothermal activity and landscapes is because it is actually on a very active fault line. So New Zealand sits right on the edge of both the Indian-Australian plate as well as the Pacific plate. If you're familiar with plate tectonics, maybe I'll do a longer video about that another day. But whenever you fall on a fault line like that, it's very common as those plates shift to get a lot of earthquake activity, geothermal activity, volcanic activity, and things like that. So because New Zealand falls right on those two plates, you get a lot of that activity. And Rotorua in particular sits right inside of the Taupo Volcanic Zone, which is a very active region of volcanic activity that extends through a good chunk of the North Island. So that's why you get such really cool geologic formations and this really, really unique geothermal activity that's not really found many other places in the world. So I'm also here today at Waimangu Volcanic Valley Park. This is another great place near Rotorua to experience some really geothermal activity. So this is actually a volcanic valley that was created in the 1800s by a lot of volcanic activity. So there's some really cool hot springs and geothermal anomalies that you can see here as well. And it's a really cool little walk. It's about 4 kilometers total, I think, downhill into the valley, and then you take a bus back up to the top. So this spot is called Bird's Nest Terrace. It's really interesting water shooting out of one of these little geysers here. And what I think is really interesting is all these really bright colors. And this is mostly due to algae that is growing here on the rocks. Different types of algae, so blue-green algae, which is the type that most people grow like in their pools and things like that, in your fish tanks. They cannot withstand temperatures greater than 75 degrees Celsius, which is very, very hot. But as you can imagine, a lot of these hot springs get hotter than that. So there's a lot of different types of algae here growing on these rocks. Some that are blue-green algae, but others that are not and can withstand those hotter temperatures. So this particular spot is called the Hot Springs of Mother Earth. There is a Maori name for it that I'm not going to attempt. So I don't disrespect that language because I'm going to butcher it terribly. But it's really cool how much bubbling and gurgling is going on at this particular spot with all this activity. So right after leaving the hot springs of Mother Earth, you come across this really cool little kink in the river in the hot springs called the Long Abiding Path of Knowledge, which the story goes was named by a scientist as he was trying to discover what's going on in this area, and as I learned more about it. So I think that's just a really interesting, really cool name. Obviously, again, there's a traditional Maori name for it that I don't want to butcher, but they named this place based off of their hope to discover more and to understand how these hot springs and geysers work. So, really cool. So one thing that I think is really interesting about a lot of these water bodies that are in this park, Waimangu Volcanic Valley Park, is that most of this water is extremely acidic. So acids are anything below a pH of 7. And a lot of these bodies of water are around a pH of 3, which is extremely acidic. And the reason for that is because of all of the different chemicals that are dissolved into this water. So things like carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, those are things that are going to acidify that water. So as you can imagine, there's probably not a lot of living things that can survive in these bodies of water, except probably many species of archaebacteria, so extremophiles, thermophiles, types of bacteria that really enjoy these extreme environments that are very acidic, very hot. I doubt you'll find any fish in these types of lakes or craters. So this particular body of water is called the Inferno crater. So this was a crater that they called the gateway to the Inferno, because a long time ago they thought it to be basically a portal to the underworld, which is really interesting. So they first mapped this area in 1886 after it was after the geyser underneath the surface here erupted. So it is a very interesting lake formation that has been created here by that geyser eruption. So the water's pretty deep, I think about 30 meters, and the geyser is down there at the bottom. So